Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to if you are new to this. Haven't seen me with a hat before. I don't wear hats very often, but it is quite cold and my ears are chilly, so that's what we do. But I am out here with the dog, so this is going to be a little chaotic. But we're going to film because I do feel like this needs to be filmed. This is going to be basically urban gardening 101. That's basically what it's going to be. What I do, how you can do things for success, success and everything else. And yeah, I just want to talk to you. I by no means know everything. I'm not claiming to know everything, but I do know a decent amount. So I'm here to help you guys. Again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I also do want to, before I get into the actual video, I do have a playlist on my channel dedicated to kiddie pool gardening if you're wanting to know more about that. I will also be starting a playlist on bucket gardening because I do feel like that is very useful information to have. So those will be started. I'm waiting for videos to air before I create the playlist because I'm pretty sure YouTube just starts it, just like uploads the video in a weird way. So I'm gonna wait until it's uploaded and then create the playlist. I need to have that written down in my notes. But yeah, that is the plan as of right now. So let's officially get into this video. Okay, urban gardening is difficult, but it's also very, very easy. You're not having to, in most cases, you're not able to till up the ground. You're not able to do some of the things. I'm in a neighborhood. Like, I don't want to show any neighbors' houses. And there's more behind me. So I by no means have a large area. We do have one of the larger plots in this neighborhood, which is nice, but I cannot do everything. A lot of ours is front yard, and I would not mind doing front yard things, but there's only such a small area, and that area is used for, like, when we do games and stuff like that. So that area is kind of off limits, but yeah. So I want to get into a few options. A few of your options are you can do bucket gardening, you can do kiddie pool gardening, and you can do, what is it? Or raised beds. Now, raised beds can be very easy if you are using recycled materials. I will put a picture up here of, it'll cycle through a few different pictures as I talk. But those are perfectly valid options. They're still going through and all that. But these options, it'll show bucket gardening, kiddie pool gardening, stuff like that. Those are all very good resources to have and to use. This dog. All very good resources to use. It's using what you have, which is a permaculture principle of, permaculture is just using what you have and using it to the best of its ability and repurposing things and finding new uses for stuff. You can also use totes, like the big Tupperware totes. I have one over here if I can get over here with the dog being crazy. But yeah, those are very, very helpful as well. I grow my potatoes in those. So I talked about bucket gardening. I use 5-gallon buckets. We got all of, I will talk about my bucket gardening experience. And it was, we were reading up a bunch of different things. Bucket gardening is how we started. I'm back. I don't want this video to be super long, but I have a feeling that it's just going to get a little longer than I would have liked. So, bucket gardening. I started my bucket gardening journey, if you will say, 2020. We just got a few containers from the store, just some started plants. We started later in the season, but we knew this is what we wanted to do. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And then we got into just looking around to see where we can get buckets from, because 5-gallon buckets are not cheap, y'all. I don't know if you know that. They're affordable to a point. Like, you can't go out and buy, like, I have like almost 50 buckets, 55-gallon buckets. That's not cheap to just go out and buy all those. Now, if you're buying them some at a time, that's better than nothing, obviously. But we got a lot of ours for free from Chick-fil-A. We went up to our Chick-fil-A or we read online that they would give you buckets if you asked. And we were like, okay, well, we'll ask, and worst case scenario, they say no. So we asked about it, and they were like, yeah, just come back like 2 or 3 times a week and just check, and we'll have them saved for you and your name and whatever. And they did ask what we were going to do with the buckets, which is just fun on their part. And we were like, we're going to garden with them. And they were like, that's awesome. The reason we did that is because they were food grade buckets. These buckets had pickles in them. They smelled like pickles, which is not a bad thing. I enjoy the smell of pickles. I just don't like the taste of pickles. So that was very, very interesting. You can clean them. I found no need to actually clean them fully. Spray it out with the water hose, and then you drill your holes in your buckets. I will show you guys right now how many holes that I do in my buckets. Get a bucket really quick. This is about how many that I you can do some more, you can do less. The talk with that though is you need to be mindful. If you are somewhere that it gets really, really hot, you don't want your buckets to dry out too quickly. So monitoring the holes is a really good practice. But you also don't want too few to where water's sitting in there. So I will at least do 5 holes, 1 in the middle and then 4 on the outside in a triangle, not a triangle, a square. And that will work. I do a few more just because I water almost daily with my buckets because they are needed. Now, another thing, I did talk on totes, and I'm over here, so I want to talk about this, is totes. It needs to be cleaned up, but totes. Those totes, you can get fairly cheap, and they are a lot cheaper than going out and buying a raised bed for that same price. So, that can be a very, very useful option for people who are looking for something and it's a little bit higher. Again, I do a lot of my root vegetables in buckets. I do potatoes in the totes. I do potatoes in the buckets. I do a bunch of other things in the buckets. I will have a video on that, or already have a video on that by the time you're seeing this. But yeah, that's my experience with buckets. Bucket gardening is very easy. You can use a bunch of different things. I also will be doing, I don't exactly know what they are. I will figure it out, but I will be planting in those, and they're just a sort of container that we got from Publix. They had them on sale, and we're like, okay, well, this is a good deal. Let's just get them. They don't have a lot of room for a bunch of root growth, so I wouldn't just go out and do that, like roots or anything that has a big root system. And then you also have the other thing with that container. They did not have drainage holes except for in the very center, and that was not good. We definitely needed more drainage holes than where they were. So that's where that came from, and I will be working on that. But I do want to mention that whatever you are doing, make sure they have good drainage holes. And I will be talking about this in my next topic. I will be talking about this in my next topic as well. Kiddie pools. I'm gonna try to film the other part of this video because I did talk a lot about bucket gardening in the beginning half of this video, which I will be breaking it down, but this is just like, I guess, urban gardening 101, like I called it earlier. As you can see, this is a few days later. Lots been going on. Not really, kind of, in a sense, it's been weird. But yeah, so today, same video, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about bucket gardening. Not bucket gardening, kiddie pool gardening. Jeez. Jeez, Zachary. We're gonna be talking about kiddie pool gardening. I'm not gonna go super in depth because I do plan on doing a lot of content revolving around these as well as the buckets. So, with that being said, I will loosely touch on things, but I will be having a more in-depth video talking about like specifics and how to have the best success and things like that. So let's get into it. You guys have already been into it. Okay, so these are my kiddie pools. I have another one here. I have an empty one here. I have a full one here. And I have a few others scattered around in this little area. The thing that I want to get with this is no matter where you are, more than likely you can acquire a kiddie pool and you can grow in a kiddie pool. Now, if you're getting the smaller kiddie pools, I would advise against doing something that is super, that has super big root system, like a super large root system. Obviously, there's not a lot of room to support a root system that big. You could probably get away with it if you filled the soil all the way up to the top, but then at that point you just need really good drainage so it's not just sitting, and that's going to mean watering more. Watering once a day or twice a day when it gets really hot. But if you want to grow food, that might be something that you're going to have to do. But that is one thing that you're going to want to look at when you are doing your kiddie pools, is what are you planning on growing in it? And how are you planning on accomplishing that? Yep, that's the gist of that. Sorry, I had another thought, but what you're growing in it does play a big factor. I will tell you what I'm growing in my kiddie pool, or what I have grown. I will be having a video on what I'm going to be doing, a more in-depth plan of my garden layout, which I've already talked about in this video a little bit, just looking forward to that. I have grown a container variety of corn in kiddie pools. I have done bush beans, I have done cucumbers, I have done some small sunflowers. Jeez, this morning it is not working. Some small sunflowers, the beans. I do bush beans because I don't really want to put a trellis and not have the room for it. But you can find ways to troubleshoot that, obviously. You can build a trellis that goes the length of 2 or 3 pools and put stakes on the outside, and you can still have a trellis. And you can grow things that require a trellis. And that's if you want to do that. If you don't want to, now that's completely fine. Stick to a bush bean variety of plant, but also know that once you tear those plants out, you're not going to be getting a continual harvest. More on that topic later with beans. I just want to cover this loosely. Like I said, you also want good compost, good soil, because think about it, if you have a bunch of plants in here, the nutrients of the soil is going to get sucked out pretty quickly. So either adding new compost every year if you're returning, or just refreshing soil before you plant. That is something that you should want to look for, because the nutrients in these pools get drained out pretty quickly. So I am adding a bunch of compost. I'm adding a bunch of compost for a different reason than a lot of people might be adding compost. I will loosely cover this, but I will cover more in depth in the kiddie pool episode. There are some very cool things that you can look for when going about different ways to plant. You don't need to find a pre-built thing. You don't need to have raised beds that look like mine. Mine, corn beds, this is what they look like. With those stones on the end. Something that was happening in 2020 was those, because those stones were cheaper than buying a whole lot of other things. So that made more sense. I'm sorry, these dogs are barking. The dog's still over there, so if you hear barking, that's what the dog is. I'm not waiting any longer. But yeah, I really want to push the boundaries when it comes to kiddie pool gardening or just gardening in general. I don't think that gardening should ever be something that is set completely in stone. You need to find your own ways. We have, and my great-grandparents, which you're going to be seeing some more of spread throughout content, and I'll label those and put them into a playlist as well. We built a garden. We built 2 garden beds out of tiles. Why? Because we had them and they were cheaper. Very, very good for us to do that, but you can grow in anything. You can set up so many different things. You don't have to have anything any sort of way. You can really grow in anything. I showed earlier the tote. I showed earlier the 5-gallon buckets. I have raised beds. I have kiddie pools. All of those are such good resources for people, and I wish more people would tap into them, especially in urban settings, because you really can grow so much food. If you have a yard like me or anything, I want to inspire you guys, and you don't even have to have a yard like me. But yeah, I really just wanted this to be very educational, very inspiring, and I feel like it has been so far. There's still more to talk about, because I want to talk about raised beds. I do believe earlier we put some pictures up over here of of the different garden beds, the kiddie pools, the raised beds, or whatever. Maybe we do that spread throughout. But just the buckets earlier, but this is raised beds. So I have the corn beds. I have my tomato beds. I have my arch trellis beds. I have the beds at my great-grandparents. Yeah, are they beneficial in like the long run? No, but you can grow so much food in them, it's crazy. You can grow beans in buckets. You can really grow anything in a 5-gallon bucket. You can grow anything in one of these large kiddie pools from we got them from Dollar General, but you can grow anything in them. It's fantastic, and I want to help people realize that your situation doesn't limit you. Also, a bunch of knowledge and a bunch of everything, to where if the soil is bad over there, I can grow in containers while I'm working on the soil. I don't have to miss a whole year of gardening. It's things like this, or I just like growing in containers. I like doing potatoes in containers, and if potatoes can be grown in that, great. That's wonderful news for me, and that would make me so happy if potatoes are able to be grown in the big kiddie pools. I want to see how they produce. I want to see how well they stand up against each other, like buckets and the 5-gallon, or the 5-gallon buckets and the kiddie pool. I want to test that. I want to see how many plants it does. Am I getting the same number of potatoes? Am I getting less potatoes? Or is it the same amount of potatoes? Because if it's the same amount of potatoes, experiment kind of over, because you're getting the same amount of potatoes. So I am going to be watching that very, very closely. I want it to be an experiment, and there's going to be probably a playlist on that as well. I didn't really touch on raised beds, so sorry about that, but I will be having more videos, but I am going to do singular videos and put them into a playlist to document different things throughout the year. So if you are interested in that, I promise those videos are going to be more educational than this one. This one I feel like was pretty educational, but I am going to be covering a lot of the same things. I will probably do a terms video of what different things mean. The same thing that I included in the beginning of this video, but also some things that I forgot, things like that. So please stick around if you're watching to this point. I want to help. I really do. And I know it's not going to be like the best help, but I promise I want to help you guys. So shorter videos will be coming on all of this because shorter videos are way easier and way better to understand than a longer video like this, where it is all over the place and spread over the course of a few days. So I really do want to help everybody who is watching this and also just spread encouragement for this lifestyle. Again, anybody can do this. So yeah, please, 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 please. Let's see what we can do this year. And now, February 5th at least, don't know when this is going to go up, there's enough time to get started in the garden. There's enough time to do whatever. Now is the time to prepare. So I hope this was a good video. I hope it's packed full of information for you guys. I feel like it's packed full of information. There are some moments that aren't, obviously, but I do feel like it was a good break from things. Like, I gave enough good information and then like broke it up a little bit with like some funny moments or whatever. So I do hope to and plan on continuing this journey with all of you guys for so much longer, and that makes me happy because I just want to see more people gardening, more people enjoying this lifestyle. And if you failed, my little bit of encouragement here, if you failed, try again. Try again. Trust me. Just try again. Try to figure out what you did wrong. Or maybe it wasn't you and maybe it was the weather. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was somewhat educational for you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.